See people joining in. Awesome. Boy, people are jumping into this room fast. Lots of familiar friends. Good to see you again, Bruce and Amy, of course. Always great supporters. Love it. Kira is back. Michael is back. I'm loving the AI note takers again. I love it when their human companions join them. But hey, we'll take the robots to take some notes as well. Welcome, everyone. Trish, good to see you. Yeah, this is awesome. Everyone coming in. See, Sheila's coming in. We've got, in celebration of the upcoming St. Patrick's Day, some Irish jig music. I think it wasn't the song I was gonna play, Dwayne, but I don't know my Irish music very well, so I hear some jig and stuff, and I have a feeling you don't listen to a lot of it yourself either, do you, Dwayne?
This is actually how I wake up every morning.
I will say, Dwayne, no, this time of year, everybody, not everybody,
Yeah,
most
no, I'm
people
trying to.
like lean into the Irish side, that whatever they like about the culture, their background. But I do have a great grandfather who escaped from Ireland and kind of changed the trajectory of our family tree when he came in through Ellis Island,
Oh, nice.
100 something years ago. And I do think of him around this time of year, like definitely changed the life of hundreds of cruise descendants. But it makes me think about ways that we can all sort of change the direction of our family tree in positive ways. I've never done anything like leaving my country dead
Mhm.
broke on for a new land, but I don't know, I try a little bit every day, try a little bit every day.
But
So
you know
well,
what, Kevin? I
yeah.
think it's fair to say that you've definitely dropped some pearls of wisdom in many of those books, and that's your legacy, you know?
I appreciate that. I hadn't thought about that, Dwayne. That is what I hope to do. Well, welcome everyone. If we haven't met, I'm Kevin Cruz. I'm the founder and CEO of LeadX. This is an invitation only talent development community of practice. You're here because you are practitioners. We keep the coaches and the vendors out. Even the LeadX folks stay out of the breakouts when we have them, so you can have a nice peer-to-peer conversation without any of the other noise or distractions. And what we say is, we think that the value that you get from these monthly meetings, you've told us that it often exceeds the conferences that you go to, the SHRMs, the ATDs, et cetera. Um, and yet we say, although we don't charge you money, it is not free. What we do ask of you as compensation for the hard work that we're putting in is just spread the word, invite your colleagues, get them to sign up and join up. And at the end of many of these events, I don't know if we're going to have one today, Evan, but there's a survey that drops when we close Zoom, and we just ask you to answer 5 questions, make sure we're on the right track. And so I love it that you pay us back in this way. We like all of you to chat it up in the chat room because this is a mastermind. We certainly don't have the answers here on our side. We just like to facilitate these answers. And Kira actually loves the Chieftains. Cool. We've got some. I should have gotten some musical selections for the month from you, Kira, because I'm not very familiar with their music. I see people are boarding flights and still participating. Today, I am excited, as I usually am, for the COP. We're going to have our quick AI tips of the month. We've got our research spotlight again. We've got a mind-blowing case study from about a leadership development program that we got to know closely over at MITRE. We're going to walk through that. Lots of takeaways there. Depending on the time, we might do a real quick breakout so you can meet new friends and reconnect with old friends. And as always, we end with the top 5 plays of the month, which is just our take on the stories that caught our eye related to talent development and the future of work. And I was already chopping it up with him, but my partner in crime here, he is the director of commercial excellence at Terumo, Dwayne Bess. How are you, Dwayne?
What is up, boss? How you feeling?
Now, are you going to do anything to celebrate St. Patty's Day? I'm in Philadelphia, so there's going to be a parade outside my window on Sunday. The people will be staggering out of bars, I'm sure. What happens in your neighborhood?
You know, The neighbors are restless, but I don't do much, honestly. I don't do anything on Cinco de Mayo or St. Patty's Day. I kind of just live my life. But here's the thing, because of you and your grandfather, I think I may wear a little green for you and just pay homage.
There it is. I like that. I like that. Maybe I'll post on LinkedIn about my grandfather. Maybe I'll have to do that on Monday or Tuesday, and
You
I'll tag
should.
you in it, Dwayne, so you can see the inspiration there.
You should. You should.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, let's dive in because I'm anxious to get to our main event,
Mhm.
but I do want to kick us off. Things move so fast with AI. I try to keep up and it's mind blowing, but I thought this was interesting. Now, we've talked about this idea, this tip for your prompts in the past, but brand new, there's now research. There's proof that this actually works. And it's a simple thing. It's repeating your goal in the prompt. So if you open up your ChatGPT, your Copilot, your Claude, whatever it is, then you start with your goal. So let's say my goal is to create a 12-week individual development plan to get me better at agility. The persona, you will play the role of coach or trainer. The context, I want to do something. This is my job. This is my company. Here's the
Mhm.
kind of plan I'm looking for. And then you just repeat the goal. You just copy and paste it from the top. I want you to create a 12-week individual development plan to improve agility. And it dramatically improved the quality of the
Mhm.
prompt responses. So people always kind of had a hunch about this, but these Google researchers tried it out on all the models and it made a dramatic difference. So instantly, an instant, easy, free way to improve the output that you're getting from your AI. And now here's a bigger one. Dwayne, you're going to like this one. So many of you will recall that we've been talking about Notebook LM,
Yes.
notebooklm.google for a while. This is the one where you can feed it a PDF. It could be a training document, it could be PowerPoint slides, whatever it is. And you hit one button and it can give you an infographic. You could hit another button and it can give you a mind map. You hit another button and it'll give you flashcards. You hit another button, it'll give you a podcast episode. And now, Dwayne, last time we were talking about this, you just ignored me. You bailed out of this meeting and you started creating learning assets on the fly. You didn't even wait. Well, don't do it this time, Dwayne, because here's the thing. Now, Notebook LM creates videos, one button explainer videos. Now, I'm going to show you what I was showing you on this slide was when we presented our EQ research, tying EQ to pay, EQ to performance results. And so what I did is I dropped that same one pager into Notebook LM and said, make me an explainer video. Now, I want to precede this by saying I did it the easiest way possible. One button, no instructions. I didn't give it brand guidelines. I didn't give it a script. I didn't tell it to emphasize certain things. So it would
Mhm.
be better if I had taken the time to do all that. But here's what it gave me with one click of a button.
Okay, what if one skill could seriously boost your career and your bank account? We all kind of wonder, can a soft skill actually make you rich? Like for real? Well, a new analysis of almost 1,500 pros has a surprisingly clear answer. And that skill is emotional intelligence, or EQ. It's not just some buzzword, it's a real key. So how does this all work? Well, it all starts with your performance reviews.
Just look at that jump. A tiny 10% boost in EQ makes a massive difference.
That's a point 0.3 bump on the scale, and that's enough to push you into a whole new tier. This is literally what moves you from average to above average in your manager's eyes. But hey, better performance is just the start. It also
Okay, I'm going to pause it here. Now, if everyone could just tell me what's your reaction to this one-click explainer video, tell me in the chat. Now, Dwayne, my thoughts on this. First of all, it's corny. Like, LeadX would never put out this as a training thing because it's just like, hey, who wants to get rich from your EQ, right? But what blows my mind is, and there's many different styles you can choose. So
Mhm.
this cartoony style, you don't have to do it. But like it it knew to start with a hook. Like, who
Hmm.
wants to make money with EQ?
Hmm.
And I cut off at the end, it kind of has a provocative question. So
Hmm.
somehow it knows the structure. It certainly read the material. And to be honest with you, like for free, it ain't bad. But what do you think?
So I've used this before. Here's the thing. In January, I was in a pinch and we got a new study that came out. And last minute, it's like, hey, can you actually put together some type of training in 2 days on this? We
Oof.
actually use this almost like a pre-read to do a train the trainer. So I typed up some of the context. I saved the document. It gave a good 5 minute quick, well, it was like a 3 minute video, which was a pre-read to the train the trainer we actually did. So it helps really nice in a pinch. I enjoy it. I've used it
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah, and I'm reading some of these comments as well, and there is one pointer which is like I usually find these explainer videos pretty cheesy. Like it's not my go-to for learning a
Mhm.
lot, the way they're
Mhm.
created. But it's great that you've already gotten value out of it, and if we just play with the prompts, I'm sure you can get it into, a brand's appropriate, industry appropriate look. So anyway, that was
But
another AI
Kevin, it
capability.
also does dialogue. So the one that I created, it has two individuals that go back and forth and they're dialoguing about the topic, which adds a different complexity and texture to it.
I love that. That's one of the things I loved about when they dropped that podcast. And this is a great tip, even in like live presentations, right? To make it a dialogue, sort of like what you and I do, Dwayne, instead of me just yapping about all day. That's a key differentiator. Anyway, it's
Mhm.
hard to stay up on all this stuff, but just wanted to share these things. And now I'm going to introduce back, of course, my colleague Evan Watkins. For the most of you have worked with Evan before. He's co-authored several books, including two different books on emotional intelligence. Oversees our content community. And hey, just because I wasn't acknowledging it, Evan, I saw some chat here earlier in the meeting that people want to throw me out because of how good a job you did last month. So I am keeping my eye on you.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to get into this EQ research. I think we've been doing a monthly series now since December where we take a look at like over 1,000 data points on our emotional intelligence assessment. Uh, and the latest thing that we've really been focused on is this cool model from LinkedIn, where they took their list of most in-demand skills based on uh, how everything's been changing over the last couple of years. I think this list started in 2023 and it's held up since. And of course, we noticed emotional intelligence is already on that model. It's the bottommost skill there. But we were curious, like emotional intelligence is pretty foundational to these other five skills, right? So we wanted to look at to what degree is that true, and which ones maybe is it the most closely linked to. So uh, first, we looked at decision making and found a strong association there. We talked about this one last month. The across the board, each of the four core skills of emotional intelligence, all associated with stronger decision making and the use of a decision making process, especially overall EQ and the core skills of self management and social awareness. So, really strong associations there. I'll drop an article we wrote for Forbes in the chat that gets into that in more detail. But this month, we really wanted to focus on adaptability. And so that's the third piece on this model. And we kind of looked at adaptability through two main lenses. So the first one is called reactive adaptability, and that's your ability to adapt in the moment. So if you read that item there, when conditions change, I adjust my approach quickly and effectively. So that's not prepared for change. That's like change happening to you right now. What do you do? And
Mhm.
then the second type of change is proactive adaptability. And so we looked at your ability to plan ahead and foresee those shifts and act on them before they become urgent. And we did find strong associations with both items and every single emotional intelligence core skill and overall emotional intelligence. So here's reactive adaptability. You can see it's like a really nice line up and to the right, strong associations across each of the four core skills, strong overall association with emotional intelligence. And then moving on to proactive adaptability, we see the same thing, the same pattern. And if we could go one more slide, we can even look at the specifics. So there's the actual Pearson correlations. And what I thought was the most interesting here is that overall emotional intelligence has the strongest association with adaptability on both measures. And what that tells me is that you need all four core skills to influence adaptability. You need them all working in synchronicity in order to impact adaptability. So yeah, that's the high level breakdown for emotional intelligence and adaptability. We do have an article coming out that details all of this more, gets into the research a little bit further and brings on like the measures of adaptability and how we chose them, things like that. And then next month we'll be getting into creativity. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. And this started as sort of a well, it is sort of a side project for us, but LeadX is now doing more current EQ research than anyone in the world. So there are individual psychologists doing pocket studies as they always do. But just because of our community and our reach, every month we can get over 1,000 participants into our study. No one else has this reach or this ability to do a every 30-day cycle with 1,000 new participants. And so our first series, we thought that as Evan, thanks Lucy, as Evan mentioned, it was like, um, wow, like LinkedIn and everyone is asking this question: what skills matter now in the age of AI, the AI agentic era? And let's take their list as a starting point and start looking at it. And it goes to, it's the only plug we do, in this meeting is, to be successful when every device on your desk has genius IQ, when knowledge is becoming a commodity, you need to lean into the human skills. It's as many of our clients and colleagues say, it's AI plus EI, right? That's the formula for success. And so we do hope you'll keep us in mind. There's two ways if you want to develop your colleagues' emotional intelligence: get certified in LeadX EQ, or have one of your colleagues, one of your trainers, get certified in EQ, or talk to us about having us, run these workshops for you. There's information on our website, but the easiest way is just drop Evan an email, evan@leadx.org, and we can hook you up. And so this is all, of course, working with Dr. Travis Bradbury. That's the assessment and the model that we're using. And then we're just excited to use fresh materials, current examples, and the latest research. All right, James, thank you. Appreciate that comment. It's great. Evan, thanks for all the research work. You're moving fast with a new study every single month. And now for the main event. Whoops, I skipped over it. This is great. He's been a friend of LeadX and a friend of this community for a while. Before his current role, he spent years developing his skills at Marriott and then the Aerospace Corporation. He is an ICF certified coach. He's currently Senior Manager Leadership Development at MITRE, Varner Story. Varner, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin. Oh my gosh, you like lay all the accolades on. I love it. Thank you.
Now, Varner, you've played with us before, so we like to treat everyone as friend and family. So before you start sharing slides, just tell everyone like where are you coming from today. Right now I've got sunny Philadelphia, but we've gone from like 90 degrees to snow every other day. Where are you at?
So I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. So we were at 84 degrees, and then yesterday it snowed. So yeah, exciting weather this time of year.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to make sure that Evan has handed you that you've got share rights on these slides. Anything you want to do before diving in, I just want to remind people, because this is some amazing stuff, that they can ask questions by typing them in the chat, or at the end of your presentation, they could just hit their digital hand up and we will call on them.
Yeah, let me just grab my slides here.
A+ development. All right.
There we go.
We see your slides.
Perfect. All right. So, as Kevin said, I've been in leadership and training and coaching for way too long. I don't want to admit that it's like 25 plus years. Um, I work at the MITRE Corporation right now, and I came here about 3.5 years ago to stand up their leadership development program. There were other iterations of things here, but nothing that was as formal as what we've stood up now. So want to share a little bit about what MITRE is, because I'm sure you're like, what in the world is that? MITRE is a federally funded research and development center. That is a tongue twister. There are only 42 of these in the US. MITRE is an operator of 6 of the FFRDCs that are out there. We are chartered by Congress directly, so we're not a quote government contractor. We don't go out bidding like Northrop Grumman and Raytheon and those places. Instead, we're considered objective and independent, and we align with the various government agencies and try to help them with solving some of the toughest problems that are out there. A lot of the work we do is uh, military based or intel based, but a good example I can share with you is we're currently working on 6G for telephones. So your T-Mobile, your AT&T, all of that, it says 5G. The government feels it is in our best interest that the US is the one who developed 6G. You don't want adversaries being the one to develop our next gen of telecom. So what we do is we do research and development around topics like that, and then we share that knowledge with people like Verizon and AT&T to help move them along a lot quicker. So that's what we do in FFRDC land. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is a program that we developed for our frontline leaders. It is called the A+ program, and it's Accelerate People Leaders' Unique Skills. And what we decided was there were lots of signals coming to us from the business that we needed a frontline leadership program. We are a matrixed org. This created a lot of nuances. What one frontline leader does could be a little bit different than what another frontline leader does inside the org. And so we really needed to coalesce around what are the common skills that we want all of our frontline leaders to be able to master. So we embarked on a needs assessment. The population that we surveyed, we started with the folks who report to these frontline leaders. The frontline leaders themselves are called group leaders, so we also included them. Their next level leader is a department manager, and then ahead of that is director. So we had different groups surveyed to find out what are the things that these groups need. Once we got all of that data, we then went and did focus groups. And so we went and we said, hey, here's what's in the job description. Here's what we heard from you in the survey that we did. And we really wanted to get some qualitative data to complement all of that quantitative data so we could start making decisions about what was going to be included in the program. So what we landed on, we looked at the competency model that we had in place. We looked at the job description. We looked at the data that came in from the needs assessment. We then did some clarifying interviews with folks, and we landed on one overarching theme: communication, communication, and communication. And that was loud and clear, is that this was probably the biggest improvement area for this population. And we landed on these 6 topics as being the ones that were going to make up the program. So coaching, real hot button. We're still really pulling the thread on that right now. Feedback, we have a pretty technical population, so sometimes their choice is to avoid the feedback or to make it a little too harsh. So that's another one that we're really double clicking on this year. The intent of this program was really to walk people through all 6 of these so that they had a good primer and ultimately could decide where they needed additional improvement. So what the program consisted of was a pilot that we ran in 2025. We have subsequently run another cohort through the program. So we took a lot of that pilot data and did a little refinement to the second running. But we had 23 folks who were in the pilot of the program. The way it was structured was that they completed a series of 4 e-learnings before they came into the more formal aspect of it. Then we conducted 6 virtual sessions with them, and the purpose of that was to touch on all 6 of these topics. We wanted to give them background information, frameworks, things that would allow us not to have to cover that in the live capstone. We wanted the live capstone to be activity driven. I remember when we ran the capstone, one person said to me, she said, I thought we were going to be sitting for 2 days. I did not know we were going to be running around a conference room for 2 days. And that was a compliment because we had them up. They were moving. They were moving between tables and flip charts. And the design was intentional. But the key in the design was that we moved them towards an individual development plan. After each of these topics were covered, they would stop, they would go into their participant guide, they would assess where they currently were in relation to that topic. So when we got to the end of the 2-day experience, they were able to craft out where's the area that I believe I can impact the most change, that I feel is most relevant to my role. So that was probably the big takeaway from that program for those participants. And as a footnote, Kevin, Notebook LM, in the second iteration, we actually created podcast in between each of the virtuals. And so they now have a Notebook LM podcast to help them move in between each of the virtual sessions. So the magic here, and I think what Kevin really wanted me to highlight for you, was that we did 3 levels of measurement on this program. We did a good level 1 end of class. What did you think? There were 3 core questions that we really were most interested in. How much of this learning is applicable to your responsibilities? Have you gained confidence in your capabilities? And how likely are you to recommend it to others? Each one of those, we were in the 9.2 to 9.7 range. So we were very happy that folks were walking out the door feeling confident and capable. In terms of level 2, there were a couple spots in the class where we were able to have some built-in level 2, asking them, hey, which of these frameworks would you use in this situation? Watching what they were writing on flip charts to see, oh, is that manifesting itself? But probably the most important one was that individual development plan. In order for them to effectively respond to the questions that were the thought prompts, they really had to stop and look and say, how much of this do I know? How much more do I need to know? So they were almost doing like a self L2 check. We did go to level 3 with our measurement for this program. This is a lot of data, and I've made a couple charts so you don't have to ingest all of this. But just to show you, we did diligence with the numbers. The green boxes show the average movement for each group, because in addition to the people we put through the program, we identified a control group before we started the program. And we went to the folks who reported to those control group people, as well as the leaders of those control group people. And we asked, how are these people currently performing in the areas over here on the left side of the screen? And these were the core topics that we covered in the A+ program. So in this graph, probably one of the biggest takeaways was we saw an almost 10% average change. in the scores that the program participants got from their direct reports. So that was something that was very notable to us. We also saw that even in the direct supervisors of the program participants, we saw a 6% change in the scores given. And the change in the control group was negligible at best. So we felt like, hey, we were making some impact here. Some of the items that really stuck out, the biggest one, and this was probably most important during this time, this was during all the government shutdown, all of the government reductions in force. Folks were reporting that their group leader was 13.6% more capable of helping them find their next gig. We're a very gig economy in a matrixed environment. So you need to be working on another project to be considered productive and not sitting on the bench. So that was very important during that time that their direct reports were saying, hey, my supervisor is better equipped to help me find work. This to me is the money slide. It answers the question, would these leaders have improved anyway just doing their jobs? And the answer is no. The control group was at statistical 0. So we are going to make a little attribution towards our program as being the driver of the growth that was reported by those direct reports and those supervisors. This last graph I have for you really helps visualize that. The blue and the red bars are showing you what the supervisors and direct reports said about the folks that went through the program. Those orange and purple bars are what was the scoring of the control group. So we're either seeing negligible or negative impact. So this, once again, I think really makes it pop. We did notice that the direct reports were more impacted. I think we attributed that to the skills we were teaching were downward skills. Your direct reports are going to experience that coaching benefit. They're going to experience that you're finding work for them, translating strategy for them. So I think the supervisors weren't on the receiving end, so they probably were hearing it, and that's good. And I'm sure these scores are going to continue to shift. We just completed our second cohort, and we're doing this whole process all over again. So we're going to have brand new numbers in probably like another month or so, because when we took this data, we took it 3 months out. So we didn't want to just go right back to them and say, hey, did you notice a change? We really wanted some time to go past and see, did that afford people the opportunity to implement? That's what I got, Kevin.
Varner, I'm going to again remind you they can certainly type questions in or just raise their digital hand. But I want to add before we take questions, Varner, incredible job, incredible quantitative results, which is so rare, right? And what you're actually being modest about is, well, you did the quantitative, it's the qualitative, because I had the pleasure of being in the back of the room at the end of that pilot. And there were so many of these people in the room, the participants, who at a glance, you could tell a lot of them are ex-military, and this was not like an audience like, oh great, we get a couple of days off and get to eat, lunch, free lunch. These were hardcore people in the room, and many of them said when we started this, we didn't quite know what it was about, and the virtual stuff, it was tough on our schedule. And then they said here it was like the most impactful 2 days of our career. Many people said this should be mandatory for all their peers. Like it was just effusive in the room. And so I love the hard numbers, like prove it, show me the money in data. And yet, of course, what's emotionally so moving is when you make an impact on that many, people's lives and their teams. So bravo on that as well. Let's hit some questions, Varner. I think one of them, Bella was just curious, how long was each of the virtual sessions?
Virtual sessions ran an hour. We had an initial kickoff, it was 2 hours, but then the subsequents were all an hour.
Yeah, about an hour. And then let's see. Did you use disc profiles for coaching, direct reports, giving feedback, et cetera, or just for supervisor self-awareness?
So we started with self-awareness, and then once we got into the workshop, we did start incorporating DISC. It almost became the red thread where we would introduce it to, hey, you've got to give feedback to somebody. That was, in fact, one of the activities. You'd be like, hey, you have to give this feedback. Oh, by the way, they're an S. And how are you going to tailor that feedback? So we really tried to not make DISC a, you're a D, what are you going to do with that? More into, you're a D, now you know that. Oh, by the way, we're now going to coach an S, or we're going to coach an I. So we really tried to weave it all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. Paige from Genentech is saying, I'm curious to hear more about the 2-day capstone design, case study based scenarios. What did you do in the 2 days?
Oh my gosh. We, as I said, kept them moving. We had activities where we would give them here, from your leaders, here are 25 different actions you could take related to conveying strategy to your team. You can't do them all. Pick the five most relevant, and then they had to put them up on a chart, and other groups would come by and critique that, or want to ask them a question. Well, why did you pick this, and how are you going to implement that? So lots of interaction. We had three-way group coaching circles where they had to coach, be coached, be the observer. That observer role was most critical because that's the person really getting to give the feedback. Are you following the framework that we had introduced? Are you being impactful with the questions that you're asking? So the 2 day was really meant to be the action. We didn't want to rehash the frameworks or the models. That was the benefit of the virtual. We wanted to get all that out so that they could come in, do a little bit of refresh, and dig right into practice.
Yeah, I'm glad you ended on that, Varner, because that was my recollection. Is it wasn't 100%, but pretty close to being a flipped classroom as you could expect. It was expected that that pre-work, the virtual sessions, was where the concepts would be introduced, and then everything was an activity of some sort, and yeah, in each table group.
Yeah, even in the in-betweens, they had activity because, say, after the disc session, they had homework. It was go out and start observing people, keep a log. You need to determine, a D, an I, an S, and a C. Why did you select that? We were constantly interfacing with their leader, saying, "Hey, Kevin just went to this class. He has this homework this week. Here are 3 questions you should ask him in his one-on-one." So we were constantly trying to keep their leader engaged, them engaged, because it ran over 3 months. And so we wanted them keeping this top of mind during the whole 3 months.
Yeah, and that was a question someone had, Lisa was asking about how long the program was. And so it kicked off with the virtual sessions, right, for a while, and then the capstone was at the end, the 2-day capstone was at the end. Jill was asking, how'd you pick the cohort? Were these high potentials, volunteers, or something else? Someone else?
So in the MITRE world, paying for their labor is key. So we did do that, and we put a call out to the business, and we said, if we cover these folks' labor, we need participants. And so we have 4 verticals: the national security side, our civil side, our engineering lab group, and then corporate. So we let each of the verticals each send 5 or 6 folks, and we let them be the ones to pick. Some of them went, oh, I want my high post. Some of them said, wow, I have people that just need development. But we didn't push on what the criteria would be, because we really wanted a blend. I didn't want it to be it's 100% hypo, so that might skew. I was more, you send who you think is going to benefit.
Yeah, I love that. Varner, can you back up your slides to the needs analysis slide?
Yeah.
There's a couple of things I just wanted that really struck me. And so that's Yeah, that's great. So what really jumped out to me, and this, of course, we had a front row seat when you and your team were doing this. I think too often, because we are experts at what we do, we'll just launch into the program, right? Program design, or someone outside of HR, outside of L&D is like, build us a program that does these things. Like there's just no now, it's just dictated, right? We become order takers. This was probably the most rigorous needs analysis that I've seen done in a long time. And what I loved about it is, I mean, first of all, the numbers are just crazy. The fact that you did survey research and focus group research, amazing. But you included the direct reports, right? So it wasn't just, hey, managers, what do you need to get better at? What do you want to learn? No, it's, oh, we're asking the people that counts. How should your manager be better? And so that data is so rarely gathered in that needs analysis phase. I thought it was pretty crazy. And then Varner, the topics that you ended up going with, I think that's the next slide or two slides. Let's see. Oh, right here. So this was, some of these might look familiar to frontline leader programs, but what I thought was really unique and very powerful, especially this day and age, was number 5. So translating and connecting strategy. Now, MITRE at the time, as you mentioned, Varner, was going through, I mean, it was really when the administration just changed and there was all kinds of change. Let's leave it at that. And yet, what we're hearing from everybody is in this crazy AI-driven world, uh, we can't keep up. And so, how do you keep our direct reports, our team members motivated, engaged, et cetera? Now, LeadX has done a bunch of research on engagement over the years, and the number one thing, like 60% of engagement, is now coming from what we call future vision, right? So having an optimistic vision of the future, which is not easy when we don't know what the future is going to look like, right? And so everything we're being asked about these days is like visionary leadership. How do you link, what we're doing today to our ultimate strategy and vision, or agility, because we know things are going to change. And so the fact that you're introducing this, not just at a C level, but frontline leaders, it's really, really remarkable. Let me hit a couple other questions before we wrap up this segment. Did you have, I saw a thumbs up, so that did catch my attention. Did you have a full leadership development team, or how did you partner with for tracking?
So our team consists of 2 folks who were in the development and facilitation realm, and a support staff person. So that's the size of the team. So not huge, but we did. I told them, I said, we locked hands and marched forward on this. This was our primary target last year. We put tons of effort and energy into this.
Yeah, it was the primary thing. Varner, people are asking if they're going to be able to get a copy of these slides and maybe even some of the assessment questions if they weren't in the slides. Do you have clearance to share them outside?
So the slides can go because there's a process for me to have even come and chatted with you today, Kevin. And so
And I know that. I know from
my
behind the scenes it took a while, Varner. I appreciate
so
that.
so all my slides that I've shared are available to be publicly released. So I'm fine with sharing those.
Excellent, excellent. We'll get those out next week with the notes and other things. Varner, we're gonna. I know you're gonna hang out for the next few minutes as we wrap things up on the top 5. I encourage people. I may have missed your question. Just type it in again in the chat. Varner's gonna keep a close eye on it. You can always directly message him or connect with him on LinkedIn. We dropped his LinkedIn link if you have a question that you don't want to ask publicly as well. So, Varner, thank you. From needs analysis through measurement, you're taking us all to school on how it should be done. So bravo.
Thanks, Kevin.
Michael, is that an applause or you got a question? I think we're getting applauses. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. That's great. All right. Dwayne, are you ready for the top 5 stories?
This is one of my favorite parts. I don't know if he'll be able to beat what he just shared because I loved that data he had. But I always look
Yeah.
forward to the top five. What do you got for us?
His case study is going to be my zero. I always count backwards, so we add it in. But let's take a look, and I encourage everyone again. Feel free to chop it up in the comments. So Jack Dorsey is a longtime tech person. He was one of the co-founders of Twitter, now X, and he's got the company Block, which is part of Stripe. For any of these know these companies, some of you are from Silicon Valley and would know of Jack well. So he announced quite suddenly. So his company Block was having record financial results, revenue, profit, record financial results. And he announced that they're firing 40% of their entire company despite achieving record financial results. And he said, look, work is changing because of AI. And we are getting efficiency gains, and we're going to be an AI first company. And we do not
Mm.
need 40% of the humans that we currently have. And it's a pretty big company, 10,000 people company. So this was a big story, in HR and talking about again, job displacement. Is this an example? Amazon's been another one, big headlines. Is this an example where AI is truly displacing them or not? And then
Mm.
we're going to see, though, that there's a counter narrative. Now, a lot of people are saying, Jack Dorsey, this isn't about AI. They just overhired. And a lot of tech companies, even my friends at Apple said, like during COVID, they hired a lot of people they probably shouldn't have hired. And so a lot of people are saying, this is a cover story for doing layoffs. And there's now a new term alert. I need a bell or a whistle. It's called AI washing. So it's when your company wants to fire a bunch of people, but
Oh.
instead of it being for performance reasons, instead of it being like we just had a bad quarter, they're just saying like it's because we're getting more efficient with AI or we're leaning into our AI enabled workforce. So that's a new term. I think we all need to be aware of it. And as we're seeing these layoffs, massive layoffs tied to AI, is it true? Like, is it true or not? Or is it just really the cover story? So that caught my eye as well. Story number four.
Hey,
Uh,
Kevin, real
yeah,
fast,
please.
don't forget to reshare your slides. I think people might want to see like the article name.
Evan, that would be very helpful, wouldn't it? Instead of me just blabbing without my visuals. No one wants to see me full screen. Let me get that share back. Yeah. And Evan, did that come up for everyone yet?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
we
looks
got
good.
it. We got
Nice.
it.
Yeah, they get to see everybody pointing at the robot. It's the robot's fault that we're doing all these layoffs. Um, so yeah, that's this, and we're seeing this more and more now, this counter narrative. And I thought, with all this, hey, we're firing everybody, but is it really true? And then at the same time, Gartner just released this AI jobs impact forecast. So their analysis, there will be no jobs apocalypse due to AI, but there will be job chaos. And what they're suggesting is that yes, jobs being lost to AI is going to happen, but by 2029 or 2030, it's going to shift and the jobs gained from new technology is going to actually outpace it. So chaos
Mm.
for the next few years, followed by gains. And this is where we've got the smartest people in science and business uh, on opposite sides of an issue. So there are some people saying AI is going to take all the jobs, and either we're all going to be on universal basic income, or it's going to be some dystopian thing. There are no jobs. And then, like Elon Musk just said recently, Dwayne, I don't know if you saw this. He said, none of us should save for retirement. Stop saving for retirement. Spend all your money now, because in a few years, everything's going to be free. All the robots will be making stuff in the factories. Energy is going to be so cheap. Everything I see Kira's got great reactions even without the mic on. So you got these opposite standpoints. And what I think is interesting about this Gartner slide is it's just introducing this lens of time, right? So
Mhm.
is it that AI is going to take all the jobs? Is it that we're all going to be infinitely wealthy because AI is so amazing? The truth is going to be somewhere in between, and it's going to roll out over time. What I will say, because the common thing people will say is like, well, sure, 120 years ago, 98% of all Americans were farmers, and now
Mm,
only 2% are farmers. Well, it's not like 98% of people are unemployed. They got different jobs that didn't exist.
sure.
But that shift happened over about a century, at least 50 years. Like there were decades in which farming changed, industrialization happened, and people moved to cities. This is not going to take 100 years to happen. So I'm a little bit more on the massive doom and gloom over the next 10 to 15 years, followed by gains. But I don't know. Dwayne, do you have a sense about this? Do you have an emotional reaction to all the AI advancements that are happening?
Yeah, but one, on the Elon story, I would feel just like him if I had a couple billion as a safety net to save all my money if I messed up, right? So I don't think we're
Easy
all
for him to
Elon on
say,
the
right?
phone.
He's going
So
to be
I
the
wouldn't go
first
that far.
trillionaire, the first
Yeah,
trillionaire.
yeah, it's insane. But I would say this, what we notice is that if you hop on LinkedIn, so many Ivy League schools and universities, they're giving away so much training on AI in general. And you're also seeing so many new job posts specifically for AI. So the
Yep.
job creation, I think if we were to do a study to find out job creation around I think it's probably growing dramatically and the education to do so. And it's lower barriers to entry because it's new. So I'm not as scared. I just think it has to do with that adaptability and pivoting. I'm not as scared about it. I'm really not.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that with any new technology, there's a change curve, and I
Hmm.
think there's going to be the factors. Older generations are usually slower to adopt.
Hmm.
The younger generations are faster to adopt. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
The number two story of the recent months. So, have you heard? Accenture is tracking AI logins and they're tying it to promotions. So AI, Accenture trained over 500,000 people in AI. Can you imagine what that costs? They've
Wow.
rolled out AI tools to all 700,000 employees. Massive investment. And lo and behold, Accenture has found, and you see these headlines from a lot of companies, just because you give everyone a co-pilot seat or ChatGPT doesn't mean they know what to do with it, use it, or want to use it. So this again is a very big issue that I believe is being talked about at the highest levels in your company. Hey, everybody's saying AI is the bomb, and we just dropped a bunch of money into AI enablement, and yet we're not getting any savings. What's going on? Do I fire 40% anyway? Or like when's the gains coming? So you've got carrot and stick choices. And um, Julie Sweet, the CEO of Accenture, who has really been a supporter of L&D folks and stuff like that. In an earnings call late last year, she basically said on the earnings call, she said, our people will use AI or they will be exited. I mean, okay,
Mm.
like pretty direct. And so they're tracking how many times they're logging into their AI system and they're reviewing it during times of promotion. And
Wow.
some of you may know, I wrote a book called Great Leaders Have No Rules, and one of the reasons why they don't have rules is because rules can be cheated. So for what's coffee badging, right? It's like everybody's got to come into work, 3 days a week, and we're going to track your swipes. And so people show up, they swipe their badge, they grab a cup of coffee,
Mhm.
and they walk out the side door and go home. Like so, there was the rule, but it didn't accomplish what they were trying to do. And I could see people talking to their chatbots at Accenture about anything just to get the logins.
Mhm.
It's just quite crazy. But I'd be curious if anyone wants to share on camera or in the chat what carrots and sticks your organizations might be using to try to encourage people to use AI. Dwayne, is it even an issue in your company?
I wouldn't say it's an issue, but we right now we use Copilot, and it's there's not a lot of direction given. So there's people that have an affinity towards it, and others that don't. But we've just made the investment. It's just kind of coasting. But I'm
Yeah.
with you, Kevin. I don't think you can kind of force people into this. But if you make it more intentional, it's kind of like Varner was making reference to how he teased in the disc throughout. You can
Yeah.
still, as a leader, tease it in. Okay, let's talk about efficiency today. How have you leveraged it? If you make it part of that coaching, then the behaviors will come. But the carrot and stick on AI, I'm not a fan of that one.
Yeah, 100%, Dwayne. I'm with you. And it's got to be top down, right? So if the top
Yeah.
leaders, if the all the way down are talking about the ways they're using AI, things they've discovered, et cetera. I mean,
Yes.
LeadX is tiny, but we even do that in our Slack channels. It'll be like, hey, I just clicked that little Gemini button and typed a keyword and it found the document. I didn't have to go dumpster diving in our hard drive for it,
Mhm.
right? Didn't know it did that. So the more we can share, the more we can encourage and model it and educate. I mean, and things are moving so fast. It's really not the individuals. I mean, they've already got their 40 hours to do to now try to stay on top of the advancements. It's pretty difficult. It's pretty difficult. Anyway, this will be a big issue. Marissa says our president had an AI in our work idea competition, and the winning idea was funded. I love that.
Hmm.
Chandra, my work has enterprise account licenses, but are not directly addressing AI, leaving it to succeed or fail. Pretty dangerous place to be in. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So, okay, Dwayne, it's not the number one story because I think it's a great story. It's the number one story because it's the worst thing I've seen in a long time. I almost wanted to put poop emojis all over this screen, and I don't roll like that usually. But this is like red alert. So in Harvard Business Review, I love Harvard Business Review, from four people at Boston Consulting Group. Hey, I like BCG. They do a lot of good work. Here's this story. When using AI leads to brain fry. Oh my gosh, my stress levels just ticked up just reading that headline, Dwayne. So here it is. Participants in a recent study described a buzzing feeling or a mental fog with difficulty focusing, slower decision making, even headaches. Authors call this phenomenon AI brain fry. Now, I would have to believe that this is a serious issue and we have to worry that AI is going to fry our brains. We now maybe have to address how to use AI without frying your brain. We might even have to hire Boston Consulting Group to come teach us how not to fry our brains. And then when you actually read the fine print, like the last paragraph of the study, they sent a survey out to 1,500 people and they asked them this question. Hey, have you ever had any mental fatigue that results from excessive use of AI? In other words, brain fry? 14% of participants say using AI they've endorsed the experience of AI brain fry. So let me fix the headline. 86% of people have no negative cognitive effects from using AI. 86% of your employees are not experiencing mental overload from using AI. 14%, if you ask them anything, hey, does talking to your boss cause mental trouble for you? Yes. Does coming into the office cause mental fatigue? Yes. Like you're 14% of people are going to say yes to anything. This was the worst research, the most ridiculous thing. And the fact that BCG would run with it and HBR would publish it is
Yeah.
disgusting. So, how about
Definitely
that?
some clickbait there. Definitely clickbait.
They're above this. Nobody has to worry about AI brain fry. Kira says it sounds like it was written by AI. That's actually true. That is very funny. Um, Varner, I want to bring you back in for our final minute. I know you were busy answering questions. Jeffries has said something funny. He says at Accenture that 14% would be shown the door. That's very good. Varner, now MITRE is actually teaching people how to use it. They're developing AI, they're teaching AI tools and things. But your personal take or what you've heard, I mean, what mix of carrots and sticks get people to start using AI at work? What are your thoughts on that?
So, on the technical side of the house, we actually have developed a whole curriculum on how to integrate AI into your work. The mantra, a lot of people are saying, "Oh my gosh, it's going to take my job," but the message we keep putting out from the training space is AI is not going to take your job. The person using AI is who's going to take your job.
Love it.
Hmm.
That is a great zinger there. We're going to leave it on that, Varner. Again, thank you so much. It took a lot of prep just to get approval and the slides and great work on that. Thanks for coming there. Dwayne, give us a parting message as we head into the weekend.
Yeah, I was kind of moved this morning by a video that I listened to, and the premise of it was handle hard better, and that really resonated. Anytime we're looking to elevate in our life and do things differently, it's life just doesn't get easier. And we always say to ourselves, oh, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to get easier in these things. And then the whole statement was, we just have to do better of handling hard better. Anytime you're elevating, anytime you're trying to strive for excellence, it's going to continue to get difficult. But how do you handle hard better is what it's all about. So it was a gut check for me.
Love that. Appreciate that, Dwayne. Evan Watkins, thank you again for producing a great show and all the EQ research. A lot goes on behind the scenes. Everybody, thank you. Enjoy the weekend. If you celebrate St. Patty's Day, enjoy your green beer or whatever else you're going to have, and hope to see you back next month.